CNN's Jake Tapper taking down Joe Biden. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to love this one.
In reality, 72% of voters say that they believe President Biden is too old. That's according to CNN's most recent polling. Voters have been saying this for quite a long time. The reality is that the Democratic elites are mostly late to acknowledge these age and ability issues.
I want to pause real quick. Did you notice he's reading a prompter? Yeah. When he makes those weird pauses, it's because the prompter isn't moving fast enough. So you'll see this a lot with cable presenters when they do weird things like exaggerating the way they're talking for no reason. But now I'll play the rest, just so you get that point.
The rest of the public. The elites have been forced to reckon with it after the debate just 11 days ago.
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night, and I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be on faith that can intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old.
The fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be out on your way to go, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea that I'm too old. Keep in mind, that soundbite is supposed to be reassuring to those Democratic supporters who have gone wobbly.
Did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
He doesn't think he did. He called into a couple of black radio stations where he said, among other things, this.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, served with a black president. Proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
He's proud to be the first black woman? Not coherent. And even then, we later found out, from the radio host, that the Biden campaign had given her a list of questions to ask President Biden. That is a huge no-no in journalism, and the host was fired for it, but it remains quite telling that in the Biden campaign's efforts to show that the president has not missed a step, his campaign felt the need to feed questions to the hosts for a call-in radio interview. And the president still, even then, failed to deliver in many of his answers. Now, many elected Democrats are expressing concern about this answer, too, although it was quite coherent. George Stephanopoulos asking him how he would feel if he ultimately loses to Donald Trump, which polls have suggested he will.
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
As long as he gave it his all and did the goodest job he could do. That's what it's all about. Is it?
Apparently it is. When CNN runs through segments that are old. Okay, so wasn't the first black woman comment from before? Was it from before the debate?
No, it was after.
It was after the debate.
This was part of his recovery. Okay. Amazingly enough.
Well, where is Jake Tapper to go through? I don't know, all of the cheap fakes they accused us of posting, all of these videos. It's only now that CNN is hopping on board with this. I'll take it, I guess, but still.
I mean, Jake Tapper's fake outrage that he has there. It's hey, man, where was the outrage when 13 American soldiers got killed during the Afghan withdrawal, when 3 more got killed defending the border of Iraq, Syria, and Jordan under this commander-in-chief, when we decided that we were going to get us into essentially World War III with this disastrous policy in Ukraine? I mean, the things that a commander-in-chief should be held accountable for, it's like crickets, but then all of a sudden he has a bad debate and he stutters through some things and says some goofy stuff. Now the Democrats are super outraged, and now Jake Tapper's really ready to hold him accountable. It's all just so fake. It's disgusting.
Right. Was Tapper even outraged when Joe Biden said, no American soldiers have died on my watch?
Exactly.
Right. That was even closer.
Yeah.
I mean, the other fascinating thing to me here is that Biden can't get any questions that were teed up to him correctly. And it's gotten so bad that George Stephanopoulos, who did the post-debate interview, I don't know if you guys saw this, but TMZ had this article. Someone stopped him on the street and was like, do you think Biden should run again? And George Stephanopoulos was like, no. And then later had to be like, oh, I shouldn't have talked about it publicly. But you just sat down with this guy and you said that he can't do this. I mean, it's all falling apart, but it's not new information. No. I mean, the debate was bad, but it was already evidence that was out there. It wasn't I know some people will argue Joe Biden's gotten really bad in the last 6 months, but he was always seeming to have some kind of cognitive verbal issue. I mean, the gaffes were run of the mill. It would happen all the time. And
A lifelong stutter.
A lifelong stutter. I'm so sorry I criticized that. How could I?
You know what, the Afghanistan surrender and the lack of outrage, the rout that commenced as a result of that rapid surrender and attempted pullout, had it been like 700 American soldiers got killed, would there be outrage? If it was like...
There was outrage that 13 did.
Some outrage, but not really outrage. There was some mumbling and grumbling and like, where is...
Oh, well,
Jake
Democrats
Tapper
don't care.
Yeah.
What if there was 6,000 men slaughtered, American men taken hostage? What if there are beheadings, American soldiers beheaded on camera? Then would there be outrage? Like, what does it take? How much death does it take to get people to wake up?
Is that if that were to happen, the progressive left would be celebrating in the streets. And the Democrats would have to contend with, do we put out a message that will cost us those votes? I am not exaggerating. When Hamas launched the attack on October 7th, we saw protesters in Times Square celebrating, and Democrats didn't know which direction to go with it. Do we sacrifice the little youth vote we have, or how do older people? They didn't know, because they're trying not to alienate voters.
And I mean, up to that point, we had lost nearly 3,000 Americans in Afghanistan. We lost another 5,000 in Iraq, and people barely bat an eye because you had regime media like CNN, who benefits heavily from the established order and the ruling class in Washington, D.C., running cover for the entire nonsense up until Trump comes into office and Trump says, I want to end these wars. The next thing you know, Trump is colluding with the Russians who are putting bounties on the heads of American soldiers, completely made up. They made the entire thing up and admitted it later on. But that's the way these people, like CNN, will run cover for the worst abuses of the U.S. government, especially with Democrats in control or establishment Republicans, the military-industrial complex, basically just the establishment in Washington, D.C. These guys are completely disingenuous. Luckily, I think CNN is dying because they've just been lying for so long. And the same thing with most mainstream media.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
Tapper's
that
like,
was
clear.
That was
clear.
another.
He's trying to bring it back.
That was another big story that we didn't have enough time to get into, but we'll round off the segment with CNN's laying tons of people off. Their ratings are in the gutter.
Real shame.
Yeah. Hey, they chose this.
Yeah.
Zucker came in and said, let's take the CNN brand of news and turn it into reality TV garbage that hates Donald Trump and alienate half the country. His pitch was basically, we're losing ratings anyway. Let's isolate a market and capture it. And they went for resistance, far left lunatics. And now they have one of the highest demographics in terms of their average viewer. And nobody wants to watch because they're not a news network anymore.
Do you think their ratings would have been better if Trump had served a second term, like gotten into the White House in 2020? Because in some ways it would give them more to be mad about. I mean, that's almost one of the things that I wonder about, that they have lost ratings under Biden.
Well, that's true. I mean, their ratings were way up under Trump. Yeah. But the issue is that we're at a point now where young people are moving towards Trump for a variety of reasons. The economy's bad. Biden screwed things up. And now people are sick of it. Yeah. So while they certainly could retain, if Trump was president, they'd blame him for everything. And so they maintain that audience. Now they're screwed. Because Biden got in. That's what they begged for. Burned everything down. Inflation is through the roof. Costs are through the roof. And they're and this is the anti-Trump network. Yeah. Who's now going to tune in and be like, let me hear it. Well, there's no Trump anymore. Mm-hmm. And the people who are watching because hated Trump left. And now they're going to try and come back and be like, but Biden's bad. And people are going to be like, I don't watch this.
And they got caught lying so many times. I mean, COVID, they just got caught lying through their teeth, and they haven't even made amends for it.
The Joe Rogan clip,
exactly right.
where he looked sickly, like they desaturated whatever. I don't know what they did, but they were accused of like making him look green.
They doctored the photo for sure.
Ivermectin or whatever.
There's a video of him saying that he was getting prescribed this, and they made him look sickly. And then when he had on, what do you have, like Fareed Zakaria, and he called him out, and he's like, oh yeah. So CNN doesn't deserve to ever come back.
I think that's it. Using the word rating is kind of it's a psyop, because when you rate something, you're like, oh, how good is that? I'd give that a 10 out of 10. It's awesome. Not about how many people see the thing. There could be 100 million people watch the show and all give it a 1 out of 10 because they rate it a terrible.
People hate watching CNN.
Yeah, exactly. They have high ratings because a lot of people watch, but they're actually rated very poorly because the people can't stand watching it and they're afraid when they're watching. They don't come out of it with a good feeling.
The challenge is that CNN may die, but MSNBC lives on, right? I mean, there are more mainstream progressive or left-leaning news outlets than there are conservative or, God forbid, we just have a centrist news platform that just gives information of the same size that bring in the same revenue and stuff like that. And I do think ultimately there can never be an exact competition because the internet has become so prevalent and the alternative. I mean, I don't want to say alternative. Like podcasting is such a normal thing, or having a YouTube-based show or having Rumble or whatever else. Like these alternative ways of getting news out there are making it so that CNN, MSNBC, Fox News all have to compete with that. They all have started cultivating YouTube channels and putting out clips so that they can get the viewership that's never going to be on the TV. They don't even have cable subscriptions.
CNN 8 years ago should have started shows like this.
Yeah.
And they should have said, we put the money in it, we see where it goes.
I actually think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's this Mockingbird media out things where the CIA started this Operation Mockingbird where they wanted to manipulate the public through control the mass media. Vietnam, there was a lot of outrage during Vietnam with the caskets coming back, the American bodies. It was like, enough. We embedded journalists. We saw how horrible it was and we stopped it as a society. And they were like, we can't let that happen again. Whoever, this imperial strategist, the Imperial Five Eyes spy club controls the Mockingbird media. They were like, we got to take control of this media. And now what's happening is the media is competing with its own suffering. You can't, it's not that like Rogan's so good, let's be like that. It's like we are just, now it has become apparent how awful we are as a structure, and holes are appearing within their system and you're just spurting out the lifeblood of what they needed.
Well, let me try and simplify this. The people who used to run the deep state had kids. Those kids didn't start the deep state, the liberal economic order, but they did see their parents maintain it. So they kind of understood how to maintain it. Then they had kids, and those kids saw their parents maintaining a thing but never building it, and they don't exactly know the intricacies. So we're in the third generation of the liberal economic order, and holes have begun to appear. And like the cartoon where the guy's trying to plug the holes in the ship, they don't know how to make it stop collapsing.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the liberal economic order is crumbling.
They call it the apocalypse, at least in the Bible, this great awakening, this unveiling.
It means revelation.
It means to take away the blinder or something. I think apo means to take away, and calypse is like a veil, means the veil, so to remove the veil. Ooh. Yeah, DMT, talk about seeing through the veil and stuff.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe and we'll see you all there.